I've made the claim that every single proof text that Christians bring to try to prove me of Jesus being inside of the Hebrew scriptures is either a text that is taken out of context or is a blatant mistranslation on the part of the Christian editors. I've also made the claim that Paul made up his own prophecies, saying that the Messiah has to die and he has to be resurrected. Now, one of the common rebuttals I get is that Psalm 22 does speak about the Messiah's death and very specifically about his crucifixion. So let's examine that text. Now, I do want to say that Psalm 22 is widely referenced inside of the New Testament, and in fact, the cry of dereliction is modeled after Psalm 22. But I want to examine "they pierced my hands and feet," which is commonly found inside of Christian Bibles at verse 16. Now, it would be verse 17 in a Jewish Bible. Let's examine this. I'm going to read part of the verse in English and part of it in Hebrew, and then we'll break it down to discuss what the Hebrew means. Verse 17 in a Jewish Bible, verse 16 in a Christian Bible. "For dogs have surrounded me, a band of evildoers has encompassed me. Ka'ari yadai v'raglai." Ka means like, ari means a lion. Yadai v'raglai means my hands and my feet. Now, King David is using an animal motif inside of the psalm. He is saying that his enemies are surrounding him, like bulls, like lions, like dogs, like oxen. Following this motif, we can see that that's what King David meant here as well. Like a lion, his enemies surround him at his hands and his feet. They're all around him. Now, the Christian claim is the Jewish people have actually modified this text. We have gone back, we have changed a word here, and we are trying to conceal Jesus inside of this psalm. We need to look at this from several angles. Now, the first thing we need to examine is if all Jewish texts across the world are the same. And the answer is whether it's in a Christian country or it's in a Muslim country, you will find that the text reads exactly the same. It says the word ka'ari, like a lion. Now, if this accusation against the Jewish people is true, it would make sense inside of a Christian country. However, inside of an Arab country, inside of a Muslim country where there was no Christological agenda, why would they change their text? Moreover, what you're saying with this accusation is that the Jewish people did not preserve the Hebrew text of the Bible, and therefore your Bibles are not trustworthy. Moreover, what you're saying is that God was incapable of preserving the text of his own Bible. That's just the very light stuff. Let's get a little bit deeper. If this verse really could have been translated as pierced, then the question is why didn't the New Testament authors reference this verse at all? If it was such a powerful prophecy, why does it appear nowhere inside of the New Testament? Other portions of Psalm 22 are quoted. Why not this part? Was it just not important enough to mention? You're left with either one of two possibilities. Either it wasn't important enough to mention, or it was a later invention. In order to defend their faith that pierced is the correct translation of this verse, many Christians who have done a little bit of research will point to a fragment that was found in Nachal Kever, a cave in Israel, and they will say, oh, over there it says ka'aru, which means pierced. Let's break this down. Let's look at this fragment. Let's get this all out there so everybody knows exactly what's going on. And the first thing we notice about this is that the scribe didn't have the best handwriting. Many Christians will point out and they'll say, oh, this last letter over here, where it should have been a yud if it was supposed to be ka'ari, like a lion, it's actually longer, though it doesn't extend all the way to the bottom line. So people are saying that this is a vav, and that transforms this word from ka'ari, like a lion, to the word ka'aru, which they say means pierced. But here's the story. There is no such word in the Hebrew language, not in modern day Hebrew and not in biblical Hebrew. And if you search the entire Bible, you will not find this word anywhere. Ka'aru is a nonsensical word. If you wanted to get a word that somewhat resembles pierced or making a hole, you could modify this not only by changing the yud to a vav, but you could go back and you could take out the aleph. And if you take out the aleph, then you would be left with the word karu, which means to dig or to excavate. It doesn't mean to pierce. If that's not enough to discredit this, all we have to do is look to the very next word, right after this karu made up nonsensical word, where we can see the scribe made another error. This word is yadeha. It means her hands. So if you want to trust this Nachal Kever scrap, you not only have to ignore the misspelled word with a female form, you also have to ignore the fact that this was sloppily written and it is a nonsensical word that is found nowhere in the Hebrew language at all, past or present. To sum up, if you really want to believe that verse 16 in a Christian Bible is actually translated as "they pierced my hands and feet," you would have to ignore that all Hebrew Bibles around the world are exactly the same. You would have to ignore King David's animal motif. You would have to believe in a nonsensical word that doesn't exist in the Hebrew language. You would have to ignore the fact that the New Testament authors never included this translation and this reference inside of the New Testament. And you would have to throw away the current text of the Hebrew Bible, and you would have to rely on a small scrap that was found inside of a cave that has multiple errors. The only question is do you love the Bible enough? Do you love God enough to believe that He can preserve His own text? Are you really ready to throw out the whole Hebrew Bible in lieu of a small scrap of parchment that has multiple errors in order to salvage your idolatry? Christianity is an ancient mystery religion that has had to develop layers of lies upon itself in order to maintain its basic tenets. At the end of the day, you can choose to do whatever you want, but the God of Israel is waiting for you to come home to reject the idolatrous notions that are taught by Christianity.